here on BBC Radio London. Right now, it's time to welcome my final guest to this evening's show. Her name is Nemyra. She's a singer and songwriter, and she joins me on the line. How are you?
Hi, Claire. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. And it's lovely to talk to you and have you on the show. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your journey so far. You were born in Italy. You were raised in Spain. What was your life like growing up in Spain?
I was very lucky. I moved to Spain when I was 4.
Yeah.
My parents moved there for work, and we lived in south of Spain, Andalusia, for about 7 years. So I grew up near the beach. I grew up in, hot weather almost all year round. It was a very peaceful, very safe environment, so definitely was a beautiful childhood.
Yeah.
And then when I was a teenager, we moved to Barcelona, so it was still the same kind of energy from Spain, but a little bit more stressful because it's a big city.
It is a big city.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful, beautiful childhood, beautiful upbringing. I got to learn a lot from the Spanish culture. In fact, I speak Spanish better than any other language I do. So it was very, very interesting, to be honest.
And do you speak Italian as well? Because obviously you speak English,
Yeah.
like you said, Spanish, and you speak Italian.
Yeah, Italian is my mother language, but I never went to school. My mom taught me how to read, how to talk, how to speak, everything, how to write. So I speak Italian. I sound like a foreigner. I probably sound Spanish when I speak Italian. But I'm fluent in the language too.
Which is incredible. I'm so jealous of people who are multilingual, because it's such a skill and a tool to be able to have to go to other places in the world and be able to communicate with people. Can you tell us, Nemyra, about when you first fell in love with music? How old were you when you kind of thought, this is incredible?
So my first contact with music was actually through dancing. I used to be a ballet dancer for about 10 years.
Okay.
So from the age of 7, I was listening to classical music and, creating choreographies. That's how I first got in contact with it. And then I had this idea in my head that I wanted to be a pianist. But my parents would always tell me, you have to choose one and you have to do it well. So if you want to be a pianist, you have to choose it and maybe not do so much dancing. So I started to transition to music when I was 14, and I started by playing the piano, playing the guitar, and then eventually singing. And then I fully went for music 100%. So it's always been in my life, but became a full musician when I was a teenager, kind of.
When you were a teenager, and I know that you're a multi-instrumentalist, and so that you play guitar and you play piano, which is incredible. I mean, again, they're almost like another couple of languages, really, aren't they?
It's true, actually. I've never thought about it. I think it's interesting how when you know how to speak different languages or play different instruments, you can kind of communicate and express yourself through different ways, because maybe by playing a melody on the guitar, it will convey a different feeling than by saying it with your voice.
Yeah.
So it's true.
Yeah. What made you decide, Nemyra, to move to London?
So when I turned 18, I was raised by my stepfather, who's American. So we always had like a very, kind of English/American culture in my house. And when I was 18, I moved to New Orleans first because I wanted to play jazz. And I stayed there for 1 year. I was studying, playing jazz in different bars. And then I wanted to go to university and study music properly. So I decided London would be, it was nearer to my home.
Yes.
The United States was too far. So I did a few auditions. I went to London for a year. I studied there. And then the other years I stayed in London studying and working. And it was the key place for me to develop my skills as a musician. And also that's where I met all my musical team, my producer, everyone. It's in London. So it holds a special place because that's where I met the people that helped me bring my project to life.
Which is a beautiful thing, isn't it? And I think never to be underestimated is this kind of idea that, when we're creatives, it's so important to have other people around you, I guess, to help you bring your vision or your, whether that's audio or visual, to life, essentially. You're currently finishing your debut album. What can we expect from the album?
So, yes, we've almost done recording it. I think now we're kind of deciding how to do it. Basically, I sing both in Spanish and English, and I'm trying to introduce people to this world that I'm trying to create, which is very romantic, vulnerable, and it feels like you're floating on a cloud of love kind of thing. So you can expect live instrumentation on all the tracks. You can expect a lot of very vulnerable lyrics, very honest.
Yes.
And probably a combination of English and Spanish, just because that's who I am.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of both. Different genres as well. I'm in love with jazz, bossa nova, also soul. So there's a lot of fusion of different genres, which also reflect my background and my culture. So yes, it's a big fusion of everything, which is what I am. I'm a fusion of countries, languages, cultures, feelings, emotions. So it's
instruments,
a big cloud, a big fusion. Yes, instruments, everything.
Which it sounds like a beautiful thing. And actually, when I was kind of looking at your music, one of the things that I really liked about it was the fact that you were, the track we're going to play today was in Spanish, but you also sing in English. And there was a bit of you in the studio where you were kind of talking about the fact that, there's certain words that just sound more, I guess, like melodic, or phrases that when you say them in Spanish, and I guess they have a slightly different meaning. And also, I suppose to express yourself, it's probably easier to get it, so it feels right to you when it's in the language that I guess that you know best. The single that we're going to play, which is your single that's out at the moment, how do you pronounce the name of this single?
It's pronounced Me Quieres, which means you love me in Spanish.
Oh, you love me. Me quieres, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm learning Spanish tonight as well, which is incredible.
Exactly.
Which is, I've been trying. I know a little bit, but we'll maybe I'll test that out on you another time. And
exactly.
this single is absolutely beautiful. And look, I want to thank you so much for being with me on the show. It's been so lovely to talk to you. For people who are listening, who would like to hear more of your music, to find out, follow you so that they're there when the album drops, and maybe keep up to date with any live performances that you might be doing, where can people go?
So just so everyone knows, my single Me Quieres, it just dropped today. So today's the release.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that you invited me over, because it's really special for me. It's out on all platforms. They just have to search for Nemyra, which is Nemyra. And I can be found on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And my username is Nemyra Music, so Nemyra Music. We don't have a date for the album yet, but there's probably going to be new music coming up in January. And all live shows or performances will be announced on my socials and everything.
Perfect. Look, it's been so lovely to talk to you, and I'm really excited to play the single now. Nemyra, thank you for being on the show with us, and I'm sure we'll hear more from you soon.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you ever so much. This is Nemyra and Me Quieres here on BBC Radio London.
No me importa que me digas a dónde, te seguiré a cualquier parte. Y ahora sé que me quieres, ya no te escondes. Tú me conoces más que a nadie. Vámonos lejos de aquí, lejos, en fin, te quiero.
Nemyra and Quieres here on BBC Radio London. You are listening to Claira Hermet.